correct me if I'm wrong, but these are technically still people that owe money, right? I mean, these are people that haven't made payments, right? Like, I'm not in some sort of weird, bizarro world where people aren't supposed to pay their bills, right?
No, but it's like the bus stop bankruptcy attorneys that take, you look at a BK filing.
First, seconds, performing, non-performing? What the f***? Note buyers, when it seems like you're in this business alone, know Chase, Robert, and the rest of their tribe are at it every week. They're bringing updates from their own note businesses as they work to find, fund, and finish deals. Follow along as they share their grassroots education with you, tuition free. If you'd like to know more about what they do and to download the entire back catalog, check out NoteMBA.com. Now, here are your hosts, Chase Thompson and Robert Woods.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Note MBA podcast, your home for note investing on iTunes. I am Chase Thompson, joined as always by Robert Woods. What is up, Mr. Woods?
Sunny day in Florida. It is election day, 2016.
It is election day, 2016. Our march to 200, the next 100, starts at a pretty interesting part here. We're not going to get political. It just happens to be election day, and it is what it is. Any shots? I don't necessarily agree with this in its entirety, but I really do like, and we've talked about him a ton on the show, Grant Cardone's take on this. He says, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm just going to go to work no matter what happens. I think there can definitely be some hindrances depending on which side you look at, but that's kind of the way I'm framing it.
My weight on it, obviously I voted the other day, so I went and did my duty.
I did the early voting as well. Yeah.
But I had a conversation with a buddy because I had been I'd watched Vice News tonight on HBO. And I just was sitting there kind of watching the TV, and I was like, you know what, if I just shut this off, didn't open Time Magazine, Newsweek, Fortune, Forbes, Money, didn't read the Wall Street Journal, and just put my head down and went to work, I think that if I just did the conservative thing that we do, the election and who wins Senate and everything else, I'm just, as long as, what is it, Proposition 2 votes or pass Amendment 2, Prop 2 in Florida, that's the only one I'm really concerned about anyway.
Well, then there you go. Yeah, I think that's the essence of what he's kind of saying, right? Like, do the duty, try to pay attention, do what you do, but like ultimately you really shouldn't let that sway you that much unless you're literally trying to yourself run and or work in the office of one of these people. Just keep your head down and keep moving and keep going to work. So I love it. So today, on today's show, we have a couple of topics we want to talk about. One, in fact, is a recent decision by a state pretty much we all invest in if you're investing in notes that could have and ultimately have a large impact across the entire mortgage industry, at least on the servicing side. I want to open up there because I think it's fascinating. You mentioned where you had gotten the information from. I got the information from a different place, and they are both framed up completely differently. And this is what fascinates me about anybody that might be looking at notes with fresh eyes that hasn't been with us for 100 episodes or hasn't been doing this for a long time. I think this is the interesting framing that everybody kind of comes into the business with. So it was a recent ruling from the Florida Supreme Court. Talk to me about where you got your information from and give me a quick rundown on what yours says.
Well, mine came from my Florida attorney, Mr. Harris Howard. Mm-hmm. So let's see. Florida Supreme Court finally ruled on the statute of limitation issue presented in Bartram versus U.S. Bank. The ruling came down on the side of the lenders. Below is a summary of the ruling, and attached is the opinion. The 5th District certified a question of great public importance, which we have rephrased to acknowledge that the note in this case is a standard residential mortgage, which includes a contractual right to reinstate. It goes on in depth, and then he's also a copy of the Supreme Court of Florida opinion. It's like, 35 pages.
Exactly. So yours was the information as it existed and, framed how he figured would be important to you. So here is another telling of the same story, different article. A Florida Supreme Court ruling announced yesterday threatens more homeowners with foreclosure action. Threatens more homeowners with foreclosure action. In general, lenders have 5 years to foreclose on a home thanks to the state statute. Thanks to the state statute of limitations. In some cases, however, the courts have dismissed this foreclosure action, making it difficult for banks to finalize on foreclosure. Yada, yada, yada. Long story short, it moves down into the second part, which is another foreclosure defense attorney basically saying banks now essentially have a do-over, and he expects upticks in state foreclosures over the next 12 to 24 months. So what we essentially have is this do-over. Now what you have is you have Robby being presented with this information as is, right? Like, here's what happened. Here's what's up. Here's why I think it's pertinent to you and why it matters. And then you have, and this article is on the FloridaRealtors.org website, essentially saying that now there's threatened more foreclosures of homeowners. There's essentially a do-over, and there's going to be this uptick. Correct me if I'm wrong, but these are technically still people that owe money, right? I mean, these are people that haven't made payments, right? Like, I'm not in some sort of weird, bizarro world where people aren't supposed to pay their bills, right?
No, but it's like the bus stop bankruptcy attorneys that take, you look at a BK filing where they're going to make payments of $400 a month, and the BK attorney gets the first $4,000. It's, he's got his angle. That's his marketing angle, so that he can go out and probably rein in some new clients.
I just think the framing of this is unbelievable.
The big bad banks, they're going to come huff and puff and take their homes away.
Yes, and I'm not saying they even did everything right. I'm just saying these are legitimate contracts for repayment of a mortgage. This is a mortgage payment. It blows my mind sometimes how people frame and view different sides of tons of issues. Speaking of election day, right? But no, it just is bizarre. This is a very matter-of-the-fact situation. People owe money. They now get an opportunity to be made whole, the bank said is, for money that was promised to them, right? Like, it's just bizarre to me that the framing of it would be such, in the case of, and of course, like we started off at the top of the show, this could ultimately impact the entire mortgage servicing industry, depending on how it all shakes out, how it all falls down.
I think that's a bit much. I just think that the Supreme Court passed it. More people are going to get foreclosed on like they should have. I don't think it's going to be this rollout of any monumental thing that it's going to turn into a huge.
So you don't think banks that now have a precedent in other states, seeing what this state's done, are going to try to? You don't think that's going to happen?
Yeah, I think it will, but I don't think it's going to be as impactful as it's being presented.
I think it's going to be as impactful for us, potentially. I'm not saying the business at large isn't even going to notice what's happening. I'm saying for us, though, in the business that we happen to operate in, this is a fascinating ruling that's come down. That's what I'm saying.
I agree, but I also look at the bulk. Half of my portfolio and half of the stuff actually, what do we got under contract right now? 6 notes right now. Half of those are vacant properties. So, like,
very true.
In my world, this doesn't matter because they're going to be uncontested foreclosures.
Sure.
I think this does have an impact on higher value stuff for sure. But, you're talking somebody losing $500,000, some bank losing $500,000 asset because of statute of limitations. Yeah, obviously that's impactful. But I don't know that that's really in our wheelhouse. I would say what we talk about, that low band of assets, 125,000 and below. To be honest, unless they're filing a BK, I don't think most of these borrowers are savvy enough that they're going out and their attorneys are even combating against the statute of limitations issue.
I hear you, and I completely agree with you, especially in the band with which we tend to invest. I'm just saying the ramifications across other states that happen to have these statute of limitation rules, it could roll out in other states.
I think you know my take on that?
Tell me.
I'm glad that we know about Florida, but it's like the election. I don't really care. I'm just going to keep buying them.
Keep your head down. If it's got a statute of limitations gig, let's keep rolling. No big deal. Moving on to other articles. This is a fascinating one that I think is rather interesting. This one comes through us from the Wall Street Journal and was sent to me via email, Mr. Woods, titled "Banks Are Falling Back in Love with Mortgages." Subtitled.
No, that's not what it's called. Where the hell did you read that at?
What are you talking about? That's the article you sent me.
It says banks fall back in mortgage lending. Like they're falling behind.
Wait.
You read some different article because I got the newspaper in front of me.
Uh-oh. Okay, then you lead us in with this one.
This is from Thursday, November 3rd's Wall Street Journal. Banks fall back in mortgage lending. Basically, it starts out, banks no longer reign over the U.S. mortgage market. They accounted for less than half of the mortgage dollars extended to borrowers during the third quarter. The first quarter, the banks, credit unions, and other depository institutions have fallen below that threshold in more than 30 years, according to Inside Mortgage Finance. Taking their place are non-bank lenders more willing to make riskier loans banks now shun. It says independent mortgage lenders have come close to the 50% mark before, but they haven't topped it in the recent history, even the run-up to the 2008 housing bust, making this a notable moment for the most important consumer credit market. It says the shift reflects banks' aversion to risks, especially in the mortgage business, which has left an opening for independent lenders among home buyers with low credit scores. I think the reason why this is so impactful, we're talking about a lot more people doing seller finance. You're talking about turnkey rentals to non-owner occupants. So rentals, so you're lending on different terms to LLCs to get you away from Dodd Frank. But that $50,000 to $100,000 mark where banks don't really want to lend because of the limitations that Dodd Frank puts on what they can actually charge doesn't really make it that profitable of a business spectrum. But we've been filling in with seller financing and cash. It's interesting here because there's another continued back on A10. It's becoming the perfect storm when you punish banks. They don't lend out money. This came from a guy at FBR Capital Markets. Banks are becoming utilities that are unable or unwilling to play with risk. So it's quite interesting. It just goes to show that bracket that we're talking about, where maybe people got horrible credit scores or something happened, but they've got, they've got 5 years of consistent employment. Their bills are relatively paid off. They just got really bad credit and couldn't go out and get traditional financing anyways. How we're going in and filling in the gap as investors around the country.
So two things that are interesting to me on this. Number one, I think there's obviously a ton of opportunity here in our general space, right, to take advantage of this. We talked about two recent deals we did that fell in line with this, obviously. And I do want to talk more about that. However, what's interesting is I essentially thought I was bringing up the same article you had sent me an email about. But what's fascinating about this is this article that I brought up, and I will link up because I'm just going to continue to ride this wave of apparently doing the wrong thing, was from April 26th of this year. And it actually said that mortgages were falling, or banks were falling back in love with mortgages, citing increased being flush with deposits. They're looking to put this money to work basically talking all about how these banks were going to be just shoveling money back into the market, trying to find ways to do more and more and more mortgages. This was back in April. Now it's November, and we're getting what is the essentially now this news. That's kind of fascinating to me.
I think your article is accurate, as is this one.
Yeah.
Your article saying banks are happy to lend again. They definitely are to prime borrowers with 720 credit scores, 6-digit incomes, and stabilized life expenses and things like that without crazy high DTIs. Yeah. Because there was another article I read last week about the increase in jumbo loans. If you're in a place like LA, San Francisco, most of California, New York, Miami, you're looking at, obviously a larger chunk of change. So I think that's the stuff the banks are loving. They're looking at this low bandwidth stuff that's really good for the seller financing space is high risk, even though it's really not if you're vetting the buyers.
And like it says right here, in response, banks are not only making more mortgage loans, but they're also choosing to keep more of these loans on their books. Next line, very often, these are so-called jumbo mortgages that exceed Fannie and Freddie's size limits for these loans. So they're keeping more of these loans on their books as well. They're doing the same vetting. They've got the coffers kind of full up with these flush deposits, and they're looking to do these mortgages, just not within the bandwidth that we are constantly looking at, which, again, I think is fascinating. I think it's a really great money opportunity for us in terms of long-term capital, the residual income, a lot of the things that we talk about, the reasons why we're doing the business we're doing. It's fascinating, the opportunity that we currently have before us. You wanted to talk a little bit about a negotiation situation, so an opportunity missed, basically, right?
Yeah, I think it was a missed opportunity, and actually I had another piece of paper that goes with it. Here we go. So I had early in the year, been negotiating on an asset in Baltimore, and I was trying to buy it from a fund, and we just couldn't get settled on a price. And it wasn't a high value asset. I kind of gave up. But one of the things that was unique about it is the the seller had no clue what was really going on with the deal. And at the time, though I knew what was going on, I didn't really think about how to capitalize it. There had been, in essence, a tax deed foreclosure. And, as we talk about foreclosure laws and judicial and non-judicial and tax liens and tax certificates, every state is completely different. In Baltimore, though, they had a certificate of a tax sale. And then at a certain point, you're able to file for an actual foreclosure against the taxes for the grand sum of, I think, about $4,200 in back taxes. This property ended up going back to the gentleman that bought the taxes through the tax foreclosure. But what was interesting about it is while I was negotiating it, I didn't even think to just go to the guy and be like, hey, I'm going to buy this mortgage. Will you sell me the taxes? I totally didn't even think about it. And in between the negotiations, instead of focusing on that and looking at another way of going after the property through somebody that was getting ready to control it through the tax foreclosure, I just kind of put it on the back shelf. Well, then a month and a half ago, I started some due diligence on a tape and put offers in again on that same asset and a couple others, and got pricing accepted for it. And then once I went back to go do an updated O&E report, the tax foreclosure had gone through. So they lost it to tax sale in between.
Oh.
So it's quite interesting. And then the city of Baltimore's online resources are about as user-friendly as anything in Cook County. So like I called, you call the counties that are all so different. You call one county and somebody will talk to you for 20 minutes.
Just a sweetheart of a lady just wants to talk your ear off about all the things happening in town. Yeah.
Yeah. And I call Baltimore City and I'm like, oh, I got two assets. I just need to double check taxes. You can do one. And I'm like, I was just on hold for 20 minutes. I was like, these are my tax dollars hard at work here in Baltimore. It was kind of funny. The gal she ended up being very helpful on that one asset. And I literally had to call back to check on the other one.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. What is the Scott always says, www.pickupthedamnphone.com to verify taxes. But it's interesting. I called the fund back and I sent him an email with all the notes and linked up to everything for the foreclosure sale. And he's like, oh, yep, I guess we did lose that. And it's just one of those things. It's very interesting to see that when we talk about systems or the things that we're doing or the habits that we've got for our business, even these funds with millions of dollars are letting something so simple like that fall through the crack. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because I was actually I had this under contract for $4,000. And I'm looking at it. The gentleman that took the property back through tax foreclosure doesn't have it listed on the MLS. He's actually an attorney up in Baltimore. And I had been up there, about 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. And there was a sign on the property just said for sale. So I called the gentleman and was going over the property, what he wanted. Needs renovation, everything, as is on the market for $48,000. And I'm just thinking, man, this fund lost this deal for $4,800 of not paying taxes.
Wow.
So it's just interesting. So, but it also made me think about, it's not something I'm going to go after as a side business, but the next time I'm doing due diligence on a note and I see that type of tax issue, at least in Baltimore, I may try to go the route of buying the taxes from somebody instead of actually trying to negotiate with the fund on the off chance that the fund is not going to pay it off. And it'll actually a full tax foreclosure, especially if it's the same fund I was buying this note from. I'll just pay attention to that. I'm sure they're consistent with that kind of thing.
Just keep on playing the pronoun game and just keep saying this fund, and it'll be good next time. It'll work out really well. So the next thing that we have to talk about, guys, is doing a little bit of Facebook advertising for your deals. Now, this isn't technically something that is going to apply for an REO, though you could use these same techniques for an REO. This is actually something that's going to be moved at the foreclosure auction. We're looking to kind of do some A/B testing with some Facebook marketing to kind of raise the awareness to get this thing sold at the foreclosure auction for a very specific price. Now, we will hopefully be releasing kind of a mini case study for you guys where we'll talk a little bit about the A/B testing on the Facebook marketing we did do for this asset. But on top of that, Robby took some time to talk with Tonio, which is the resident marketer, the Facebook guy at Next Gen Coastal in Orlando, Florida, and talk a little bit about A/B testing, talk about the opportunities that exist therein, and we wanted to bring you guys that audio as well. So here you go.
Okay, so we're just having a conversation about A/B testing or marketing. So the other part of what you were talking about, when you said if we want to sell the asset, that's why we're marketing it, and Chase brought up what's the extra thing that we get by running the Facebook advertising. We're talking about we can build up a buyer's list. So you said we've got 25,000 people that are 25 to 55 within 5 miles of the specific asset. They have specific tags, right? There was wholesale or real estate investor.
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick.
So we've got those things that are in there, but we can say on the back end of where the value is, and we're going to spend up to $50 per each ad. So we're going to spend at least $100 in the advertising budget. If we get 25 names, that's $4 a name to acquire a new contact. In a lot of businesses, that's pretty low contact price, I think, or price of contact. How do you, what Chase would know?
Cost of customer acquisition, or no?
You would know too, I guess.
Well, it depends if they end up becoming a customer, sure.
But even just a lead, $4 for a lead is pretty inexpensive, right?
Depending on what your average sale price per client is.
Our sale prices are okay.
Sure.
I could squeeze $4 out of the average deal.
If you're only making an average of $5 per client, then yeah, it's not going to make sense. But if you're making
it's more about what the client makes off of me and my opportunity to serve them.
Maybe that's a new statistic that needs to be monitored.
Yeah, that's actually probably a good one. So we're going to do the A/B testing. $50 per each ad, so $100 budget over 20 days. So it's what, $250 per day per ad. How many views or impressions would that get us, do you think?
I can tell you in a couple minutes.
Okay. What else do we need to go over with it? What else? Are we going to A/B test both copy and a picture? Because then that's more of a multivariable, isn't it?
Right now, we'd be testing the picture.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'd have to run 4 different ads and test copy.
So we get on Facebook advertising, we get the picture, and then we get copy underneath it as well, correct? On Facebook, the way it shows up, is it going to show up in their feed or does it show up on the side?
They show up in their main feed. The ads on the right hand side are pretty much ignored, so we wouldn't run it there.
Okay. What's that ad called on the right hand side?
Right hand feed location or something.
Oh, okay. It's got a very, very specific name. So it shows up in their feed and it's got a little bit of text underneath it plus a picture. But what we're going to test right now is just the picture.
Correct.
Or, question, since this actually I got a better question. Let's turn this around. We're going to lose, and you may not, did you already edit 2 pictures? Because I asked you to?
Yeah.
So then we'll ask Chase, this is what Chase needs to answer on Wednesday. Are we going to run 4 ads with different copy and different pictures? Or do we just run, for this one, we run the same picture with different copy ad? And the reason I'm only saying it this way is because for this asset specifically, we already know we're going to lose money. Well, we don't know we're going to lose money. We're under the assumption, and we've accepted, that we will probably not make a return on this asset. We're going to lose some money, which is why we just want them to know that if they bid $20,000 and $1, they're going to take it from us. Like, we're bidding $20,000, that's it. Since we're not trying to juice up what we're bringing in from the sale, though that we would hope that happens, should we do the copy as the A/B test? Because what Chase said was that residual goal behind it is let's build up a list of wholesale buyers in that area, in Columbus, Ohio.
Well, I think that's still your primary call to action, is if you're looking for more deals on an ongoing basis, subscribe to our list here. I mean, obviously...
Yeah, so since that would be the main goal, so we should just test the copy, right?
Well, no, we could still have that as the main call to action, but there's still... The first part of the copy would still address the actual asset at hand that's looking to be offloaded.
So you think it's better to do the picture than the copy?
Well, I don't think that there'd be too much of a difference with the copy.
All right.
At this point, I mean, we can when we start coming up with what the copy is. If there's two different ways we can't decide between, then we could look to do it.
Okay, so we'll change the picture. So what are we changing about the picture?
The placement of the banner ad, whether it's going to be in the left-hand corner covering up a little bit of the house, or if it's going to be a banner across the top of the image that doesn't obstruct the view of the house.
Is any of the text different?
The text, no, is for the verbiage of the text is still the same. The placement is going to be
just in a different location.
The placement will be a little different.
And there's no call to action on the picture, though.
No, there'd be no. The call to action, I mean, they'd be clicking the image to go through to the actual landing page, or clicking the link in the actual content.
And since I'm just throwing spaghetti at a wall, and you're more familiar with this, why do you think that's the way to go? Because I just don't know. Educate me on why that would be the way to go with changing just the location of the copy.
I mean, from a visually appealing standpoint, I mean, we'll see whether people want to see more of the house or if they're focused more on the copy itself.
So is the copy going to be larger in the one that covers part of the house?
The font size is still the same on both.
This is how I guess you end up with running like 100 different tests, huh?
Yeah.
I just thought of it. So you just change the copy, then you change the color, then you change whatever?
Right, and the color, trying to keep the color the same as well on the two different images.
Okay.
Just the placement.
Since this is the very first one we're doing, this is going to sound like a really weird thing, I think, in a year. Because it'll be funny that we talked about this. Should we keep track and just use these two pictures to start from, and that's what we build all the testing that we do from? So we start with placement, and then we change color, and then we change, change font size or change font to try to find whatever the best result one is that we can find.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
I wonder what it is.
We'll find out within a year.
All right.
I was going to tell you how many. Would you say $50 or $50 per
ad? Yeah.
And we'd be running it for 20 days, all the way up to the auction or the foreclosure auction, right?
Yeah, the day of. I think up to and run through the 29th.
Let's say we started on the 10th. So,
because if we get their email addresses, Chase can directly email them afterwards with other stuff that we've got in that market. Or you can email them, whatever. The marketing guys can take care of emailing these people.
Well, if we started the ad on the 10th, that means our ad would be running for a little over a month. It'd be like 34 days.
No, doesn't it run until the 19th? 29th. Isn't the sale date on the 29th of this month?
It's on December 16th.
Really?
Yeah.
Then I must have told you guys you had 2 weeks to finish this. Did you look at that email?
I think I was just trying to be.
I love it. I love that we're going to get it finished this week because we didn't allow the task to grow to the size of the time allotted.
Well, we wanted to do something similar to this for one a couple months ago, and then
we didn't do anything.
It got put off, and then something happened where it didn't happen in time.
Was it the sale got messed up? I think they filed bankruptcy.
Something happened.
That was the one in Gary that I forgot about. Oh goodness, I think that's getting resolved, but I don't even know.
Sale date for 12/16.
Okay, so should we wait?
You said in the next 2 weeks.
Okay,
so I was just a little
not reading the copy.
Over ambitious. No, we'll call it.
Oh, I love it. So okay, we'll get that. You know what we could do then?
So if we started running it then...
Why don't we just start... Let's finish it this week and start running it, and then we can probably run a couple different versions already through the course of this campaign.
We can also monitor it over the first couple of weeks to see what's happening. Yeah. If one's not working, then we would go ahead and stop that
Change something else and maybe relocate it or change the color. So let's do that. Let's plan on every 7 days or let's do weekly. That way it's easy. Once we launch it, you're going to launch what? Friday? Thursday or Friday?
Sure. We'll say Friday just to play it safe.
Okay.
So that would give us,
date on Friday?
34 days.
Yeah, okay. We'll just do it every week then. That's fine. It's almost 5 weeks. Don't put that in your calculator.
No, I'm estimating
I was like, please don't do that.
I'm estimating the total reach. Our estimated daily reach with a $50 budget would put us between 70 to 180 people per day.
That's pretty good, right? If
Sure.
they all are interested in wholesale, what do we put their terms were? Do you have that in there for that ad?
For what they're interested in?
Yeah, what are their interests?
We did people who match either people who are interested in foreclosure investments, tax sales, real estate investors, or real estate investing.
Do we have rehab? Is that a thing we can look for?
We can look into it.
Yeah, I think we should have rehab.
If that's a
thing. Rehabbers, maybe? I don't know what they have in.
We want to make sure it's not drug rehab.
Oh, that's wow. That's like it was funny. I don't want to talk about that now. Well, we had a good buddy who had a business name that he thankfully he changed it.
Yeah, I typed in rehab, and the first thing that pops up is celebrity rehab with Dr. Drew.
Yeah, no. Okay.
I don't think we want to have anybody interested.
Well, you never know. With celebrity rehab, I'd be happy to talk to some celebrities if they've got, a little bandwidth to deal. I don't know how stable they would be. But.
You know what? We always watch these YouTube videos, and I don't know if we maybe talk about them enough on the show. I think we do, because we did the Earl Nightingale one, but I don't even know. I got to double check what the title of it is, but it was Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, kind of like a town hall style thing, just open questions. It was old. It had to have been from the 90s. But it was really, really kind of a cool thing. And it's just interesting watching these two guys with such different business perspectives. It's kind of like when we talk a lot. I had to send you the email the other day to ask, what do I need to do to back the computer up? And then there's the tech side of everything that helps advance and all that stuff. And then you've got old school Warren Buffett talking about Coca-Cola and McDonald's and driving his Buick and just needing simple things. So it was just really interesting that they were talking about. And he was, one of the things he was talking about, he said, his biggest struggle with what they were doing was not getting in your own way. And they kind of gave a really interesting idea. And I think I'm just going to put it out there for people to think about. But what he said is pick out a person that you admire the most and then list their qualities. List the qualities that you admire about them and see about what you can bring to the forefront of your day looking at that. And he's like, well, at the same time, though, he's listed one of the people that, rubs you a little bit the wrong way. And list some of the qualities that they've got about it and kind of bring that to the forefront just to not even let those people into your circle. And one of the best things that he said, and I was looking at kind of his definition of success in there, is really the fact that he gets up. I mean, he's extremely wealthy. We can't argue that. But he gets to get up and he does what he wants to do every day. And he surrounds himself with good people, happy people, energetic, productive people. And he has the ability just to not have to be around people that don't put off those qualities that he admires in people the most, that stand out. And he knows to stay a little further away actively when he sees behaviors admitting from somebody that, falls in those traits that just rub him a little bit wrong. So it was kind of interesting. And part of that was where he was going. He said, you will have the habits 20 years from now that you decide to put into practice today. Mm. So, you've got people that you're around that you just aren't around the most positive people. And we talk about this all the time, whether it's family or friends or other people. And I continually ask people why they want to spend more time around those people if they just don't rub you the right way. But these are the habits you're creating now. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm 33. At 53, what's that impact going to be 2 decades from now, continuing some of the habits that should be changed or could be better, could be improved or need to be tweaked? But it was just I wanted to toss it out there as another something of what's influencing me this week, who I was watching. We had the World Series last week. We've got a lot of football going on. We got the election. And somehow I had an hour to watch Bill Gates and Warren Buffett just chit chat about business and life and some great wisdom from 2 extremely successful gentlemen.
Yeah, it's like that's the quintessential, you're the 5 people you surround yourself with, right? Like make those choices, list out those qualities. And when you find somebody that meets them, bring them into the fold if possible and have that list of like, nah, I'm okay. Thanks. I don't, if you elicit these particular traits, attributes, whatever the case may be, you just it's not even a thing. You just never let them in the circle, and it's fine, and you don't have that toxicness in the pool, right? Like, that's fantastic. Speaking of videos, YouTube videos, I will be linking up in the show notes. I was participating in a really great training this past weekend, the virtual note buying training that happens up in Austin, and I happened to get an awesome Facebook Live video shared of me talking about some marketing stuff or what have you. So for anybody interested in checking that out, it's over on Facebook, and I will link that up in the show notes over at notmba.com. You can watch me talk for about an hour on different marketing strategies and stuff like that. And I think it's a really cool way to look at potentially using Facebook Live for your business. This was a training that was being basically broadcast to a little over 100 people. And this particular video, which was me sharing it live, to them, live to you as well on Facebook, is over 400 views now. So we essentially, quadrupled the room by pushing it to Facebook Live. But this is something that you guys can be doing in your business. If you're out driving for dollars, if you're out, really on site looking at assets like Robby is a lot of the times, there is literally no reason, unless it's a particularly unsavory neighborhood or something like that, or you're kind of worried for some reason. There's no reason you can't take out your phone, just whip out your phone, put a little Facebook Live action out there and go, hey guys, what's up? I'm in XYZ city. I'm checking out assets here because, again, with note investing, we love to invest all over the country. Here's a little bit about what I'm doing today. You want to raise that awareness, that omnipresence of your business. That's the way to do it.
You know what I would love about that? Please make sure you show the houses that you're looking at. Since I have a fairly good memory, I might be able to get a little on the ground scene. Make sure you've got it under contract if you're going to show the house.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, try to avoid showing addresses, other things that we like to do. Just anyway, if you're looking for ways to increase the omnipresence of your business. I love how you're so positive. And
I was like, oh yeah, please do that. Then I can see the property.
He's like, by the way, I don't want any more of those negotiating mishaps. I don't want to lose out on any. I'll remember your deals, and I will crush those out of the park. Very cool. Last thing I wanted to mention, a really great guy in the real estate business out of Houston actually does a daily radio show out of Houston. He's invited me to come out and speak, talk on the radio, what have you, talk a little bit of real estate, talk marketing, talk some stuff like that. So when that goes, when that's going to be going live, we'll be sure to let you guys know so you can check that out. He's a really good guy. Yeah, I think he actually specializes in like the fix, flip kind of type of real estate down there, but cool guy, and he's invited me out. So I just want to let you guys know. We will let you know when that's going to be happening because that's going to be a lot of fun, and I look forward to that. So any last parting shots to the people, Mr. Woods?
I don't think we got anything. We've got a bunch of notes. I said I wasn't going to buy a bunch of stuff this month, and then we already bought 2 last week. We got 6 under contract and doing due diligence on a handful more.
Yep.
So we've got trying to take down some assets last part of the year. I gave myself a goal to make X amount of dollars this month with some other stuff I was working on. So I'm keeping my head down for the next couple of weeks.
I was going to say, yeah, we just got bids out, you get all kinds of stuff. It's one of those things. It's just, it's hard not to do, right? Thank you guys so much for participating in episode 101 this week. We appreciate you guys checking us out. If this is your first time here, be sure to head over to iTunes, give us a rating and a review. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. That's so important. Everything we've talked about will be in the show notes over at notmba.com, including a link to that Facebook Live video of me talking marketing. As always, guys, remember to tell 5 other people you know this week about the Note MBA podcast. Catch you guys next week.
Take it easy, guys. Have a good one.